The scent of honeysuckle clung to the thick Georgia air as I stepped off the Greyhound bus, the weight of my hometown settling over me like a familiar blanket. Home meant summer break, the promise of long, lazy days by the lake, and, of course, my sisters. With them, chaos reigned supreme. Isla, Charlotte and Emily threw themselves at me, a whirlwind of blonde waves and excited giggles. I always braced myself for their annual birthday gift extravaganza, half terrified and half tickled by their dedication to the absurd. This year, though, the mischievous glint in their eyes made my stomach knot. The gift revealed itself as a sleek, futuristic-looking device nestled in a bed of blush-pink tissue paper. My brows knit together. Don't tell me it's I couldn't bring myself to say the words out loud. Emily's grin stretched wickedly. Why, Isla, whatever are you thinking? It's for self-exploration. We know you're always so busy with your nose in those textbooks. My cheeks burned. Sure, I was no prude, but college life was all dorm rooms and cramped study spaces, not exactly conducive to solo adventures. Yet, I couldn't deny the jolt of curiosity that sparked within me. After the party, I snuck upstairs, drawn to the forbidden toy like a moth to a flame. My pulse thrummed with a mix of nervousness and the thrill of transgression. Would this be disappointing? A shaky hand reached out, and with a hesitant flick of a switch, a world of sensation burst open. A low gasp escaped me. The device was shockingly intuitive, responding to my touch as if it understood the secret rhythms of my body. Heat pooled low in my belly, followed by a wave of unfamiliar pleasure that made my knees buckle. Then, a sudden vibration against my thigh. A text message. My heart pounded in my throat as I fumbled for my phone. It wasn't a friend, but an unknown number. A photo filled the screen, an image stolen from my bedroom window. Me, caught in the flush of my private act. And the sender? None other than Alex, the boy next door turned infuriatingly handsome man. My childhood nemesis had returned from his fancy LA life, and with this single picture, he held scandalous power over me. A shiver rippled down my spine, not entirely one of fear. Later, on the porch swing, under the cloak of a star-spangled sky, he confronted me. "So they got you one too, huh?" he asked, a smirk dancing on his lips. Mortification threatened to swallow me whole, but a defiant spark pushed back. "What if I like it?" I met his gaze, heat flooding my face. "I wasn't spying," he murmured, his voice a rumble in the darkness. "Well, not at first." But then I couldn't look away. A pause hung heavy between us before he leaned in, his eyes gleaming. "Don't want to blackmail you, Isla. But I do want to play." My breath hitched. He was temptation incarnate, a walking storm just waiting to break over me. His proposition was dangerous, forbidden, and I craved it with every fiber of my being. In that moment, I saw the same rebellious desire burning in his eyes, the flicker of a shared taboo. The rational part of myself screamed to walk away, to deny him this power. But I was drowning in a sea of longing, my resistance dissolving with every beat of my traitorous heart. Perhaps there were some lines that simply begged to be crossed. Without a word, I reached out, my fingers sliding over his stubbled jawline. My kiss tasted of sweet surrender and the heady promise of a summer I'd never forget. The days that followed unraveled in a whirlwind of stolen moments. With my sisters distracted by their own summer flings, Alex and I claimed the town as our clandestine playground. We met in the hushed stillness of abandoned barns, the cool shade of the apple orchards, under the shimmering expanse of a moonlit lake. His hands were a map I desperately wanted to trace, his touch igniting fires that licked at my very sense of self-control. Each rendezvous took me further down a path I knew I shouldn't tread. But wasn't the forbidden the sweetest fruit of all? Our shared deception painted each encounter in a thrilling shade of danger. He had a talent for finding my deepest vulnerabilities and coaxing them into the light. With him, my usually shy exterior dissolved. I was brazen, wild, a woman I hardly recognized. But woven into those heady moments of abandon was an undeniable truth. Alex wasn't just some thrilling summer distraction. The flame of our childhood rivalry still simmered, but it was fueled now by a deeper, undeniable attraction. He made me laugh with an abandon I hadn't felt in years, and his touch, rough and demanding yet surprisingly tender, awakened a hunger I didn't know I possessed. "You're different, Isla," he murmured one night, his gaze tracing the curve of my cheek beneath the glow of the porch light. "You were always so buttoned up. Now you're like a wildflower burst open." His words echoed in the silence. Was this change a good thing? Or was I merely a reflection of his desires, shedding my identity for a fleeting taste of his attention? One blistering afternoon, with the sun beating mercilessly on the back of the old barn, doubt battled desire within me. We lay breathless, entangled in sweat-soaked sheets, the air thick with the scent of hay and the lingering echoes of our passion. He ran a finger across the curve of my collarbone, his expression serious. "Isla, I want this to be more." His voice was husky, laced with hesitation. "What we do here, it's not just a game. What if we just ran away from all this? For real?" The audacity of the suggestion took my breath away. Ditch our responsibilities, our carefully planned futures? It was reckless, the exact kind of impulsivity I was supposed to be above. But somewhere, deep in the core of my being, a rebellious ember flickered to life. That night, we lay on our adjacent balconies, a flimsy stretch of wood our only barrier. Beneath a velvety sky heavy with stars, we spun a fantasy. What if we didn't go back? What if we thumbed a ride to Savannah, melted into the anonymity of a new city, started over, just us? It could be incredible, I whispered, the words tasting like a wish and a prayer all at once. Could be a spectacular disaster, he chuckled, but a hint of longing lingered in his voice. Fear warred with exhilaration, a familiar battle now echoing through our shared space. The silence stretched between us, taut with the weight of the unspoken. Finally, Alex rose and gently pulled me to my feet, our bodies separated by mere inches. In the soft moonlight, his eyes burned with an intensity that sent tremors along my spine. "1 week, Isla." Alex's voice thrummed low. "End of summer, at the lake. You decide. And this time, I'll follow wherever you lead." The final week of summer crackled with tension. Beneath the surface of our stolen moments, the reality of our looming farewell cast ever-lengthening shadows. Alex's touch felt more desperate, tinged with a hint of melancholy I desperately tried to ignore. I, in turn, clung to the present, fearing the inevitable ache of his absence. My sisters, ever perceptive, peppered me with questions about my blossoming romance, their playful teasing laced with an underlying wariness. The guilt prickled like a thorn beneath my skin. How could I betray their trust when they'd always stood by me so fiercely? At night, I lay awake, torn. I was a girl who craved order, predictability, and the promise of a carefully planned future. A life with Alex hinted at beautiful chaos, the thrill of the unplanned, but could I truly handle it? Would I resent the surrender of control, the whispered disapproval of family that would inevitably follow? The day of my decision dawned, a hazy blanket of heat stifling the air. I crept over to the lake, my usual sanctuary now a source of torment. I paced the shoreline, every footprint in the sand marking the painful countdown to my choice. A storm gathered over the water, a swirling mass of bruised clouds mirroring the turmoil raging within me. I could leave and have the life I had mapped out, college, a sensible career, stability. Or I could embrace the tempest, the unknown alongside this man who both terrified and captivated me. Hours seemed to both crawl and race by as I wrestled with a decision there seemed no right answer to. Yet, as the first heavy drops of rain began to fall, baptizing my tear-streaked face, a sense of clarity washed over me. I thought of my sisters, their unwavering love, and the disappointment I'd see in their eyes if they knew my choice. I thought of my parents, their hopes for the daughter they worked so tirelessly to support. A future with Alex meant walking away from all that. Was he worth sacrificing everything I'd always believed in? Suddenly, the answer seemed startlingly clear. This summer had been an intoxicating detour, a rebellion against the life I'd expected for myself. But like with most rebellions, the fire that fueled them always burned hottest at the beginning, only to slowly flicker and fade. When Alex appeared through the rain, his dark hair plastered against his forehead, a familiar ache flared to life. He rushed towards me, the desperation in his eyes mirroring the battle that had just played out within my soul. Reaching for his hand, I gave it a gentle squeeze, my voice choked. It was perfect. A stolen summer, Alex. His eyes held a flicker of pain, quickly masked by a forced grin. So, what does the island girl with a sensible brain have planned now? Going back. Finishing school. All those things I was supposed to do all along. I watched his jaw clench, the hurt warring with the defiant pride in his eyes. He leaned in and pressed a kiss to my forehead, soft as a ghost. You were always too damn good for me anyway, Isla. Then, without another word, he turned and disappeared into the rain-drenched trees. The storm broke with a fury, and as the rain mingled with my tears, I felt a strange mix of liberation and sorrow. I'd made my choice, a return to my old life, but a piece of me would always remain at the edge of that lake, lost in the echo of a wild, untamed summer. The echoes of what could have been would linger, a bittersweet symphony I'd carry with me into the carefully ordered chapters to come. If you like my story, please like and subscribe to the channel to follow the next stories.